Transferring from one high school to another is not an easy move, especially if you're an athlete. In most cases, after transferring from another school, the athlete, regardless of the sport, will have to sit out at least 1 year. For quarterback Sharif Legree, who transferred from Fort Hamilton High School to Grand Street campus earlier this year, he is now a senior, so it's now or never. For the Legree legal team, the PSAL was moving much too slowly in terms of deciding whether Sharif should play this season, until this past Friday when the New York State Supreme Court stepped in and ruled in his favor. Joining me again to pick up where we left off last week are two men who know too well about how playing high school football here in New York City is Deval Ellis of Elite Prototype. Welcome, Deval.
What's up, Mike? How's everything?
I'm good. And also Chris Legree, founder of the Mo Better Jaguars.
How you doing, Mike?
And also John Rodriguez, the attorney, who's working on behalf of Sharif Legree. And if you know John Rodriguez, you know his brother Lloyd Rodriguez, who's also president of the Brooklyn Pit Bulls. All right, gentlemen, we have a case here. Never heard of anything like this before, where the Supreme Court had to step in to rule in favor of a player so he can continue his high school football career.
Well, that was because the PSAL did not move expeditiously to get it done. Had that been the case, we would not have had to move by way of order to show cause for an Article 78 determination regarding the prior administrative ruling.
Okay. Also, overall, as far as the case, also want to talk also about Sharif. How is he taking this whole thing?
Well, for a 17-year-old boy to go through that, it created a lot of anxiety. But we have a good support system around him. It was tough. It was tough on the whole family, but he managed through it. And we're grateful that we had good legal consultation around us also.
Okay. Now, from what I gather, last year he played at Fort Hamilton High School. He was a junior. In January, he transferred to Fort Hamilton High School because of
from
Fort Hamilton High School to Grand Street campus because it was a hardship case. He's living with his mother now, correct?
Correct. He moved from one legal guardian to another.
So that was the story right there. Now, was the PSAL notified back in January that this transfer was taking place?
I don't know the answer to that.
No. Procedurally, it's you submit a transfer when the rosters are getting ready to be active or activated. Right. That's usually later in the year, May, June, or July. Right.
Now, he was supposed to sit out 1 year, right? At least he's supposed to sit out this year, but he only has this year. So after he's a senior, he's graduating next year, this now or never.
Right. I mean, the biggest thing here, and I know we are on limited time, I want to discuss the fact that we have limited time once again because it's a huge topic, is the fact that our kids just don't matter. You know, here's a young man who has an opportunity to play football past high school. And what the PSAL does so many oftentimes, they get stuck in the bureaucracy and you got to wait your turn and things like that. And our kids never get an opportunity to play. I spoke to Attorney Rodriguez before, and he said part of the issue is the fact that he was told 25 minutes before the game that he wasn't eligible to play. We didn't even have a chance to appeal. How do you, that's not even due process. How do you go through that? How do you do that to kids? And you can tell I'm upset, Mike, and the reason why I'm upset is part of the reason why I have this shirt on. You know how I get dressed up? We come on TV, I always have on the shirt and tie. Yeah. But I think it's an opportunity for me to talk about my kids a little bit. This is a young man named Shannon Richardson. He received the first lacrosse scholarship out of the PSAL. He designed this shirt because this is how he felt. You can see the skull, you can see the lacrosse, and you can see just a young man feel like he's dead walking out in these streets. A lot of our young men feel like they don't exist. They don't have to die to feel like they're not living out here. And it hurts me because I got over 250 kids who I come in contact with every single day who feel the same exact way. You don't know what it's like to step out of your dwelling and you surrounded by poverty and pain. You got guns, you got violence, you got cops, you got gangs. And your only opportunity to get out of the hood is through sports, and sports don't matter. And that brings me to this station right here. Why every time we come here, we got 10 minutes? Every time I look at BRIC TV, hold on, Mike. I look at BRIC TV, right? You cover everything else in Brooklyn other than the people that matter the most. Everybody cares about Williamsburg, Dumbo. We get it, all right? Brooklyn is changing, but Brooklyn is still here. I'm Brooklyn. I'm Brooklyn. Brooklyn is still here.
The priorities have changed. But
how would you mean the priorities have not changed? It's still our people. The priorities have not changed, Mike. The only time they care about our people is when they walk into Atlantic Terminal Mall 2 or 3 at a time and they're getting kicked out by the so-called police or the so-called security guards. It's not fair. Our people matter. Our kids matter. We have no way to get out of here a lot of times other than sports.
The kids do matter.
But the kids do matter, but what? Why do we not have a sports show here on BRIC TV, Mike?
Priorities
I'm asking you.
Priorities
priorities have not changed. It's not fair, Mike.
You gotta go.
It's not fair.
Wait. We got to get back to this case. All right. So where were we? We were now.
Let me just clarify something. First of all, the way any kid who attends a school, any school in the city, in the public schools, has a right to play athletics if they meet the criteria, the educational criteria, the grade point, and attendance. Okay, let's assume that the kid meets it. If he transfers, the rule is he has to sit out 1 year unless there is some other reason why he would not. Right. In this case, the PSL has a rule, PSL rule 3.1. 3.1 says essentially that if you are a child who's transferred from another school, and in this case, Sharif transferred via a hardship travel transfer.
Now, here's my other thing. He transferred, he's being highly recruited, correct? He transferred from Fort Hamilton to Grand Street campus. Why not stay at Fort Hamilton High School? He's in his senior year.
Excuse me, he transferred. There was a medical problem which required he moved from one parent who lived near that school, near Fort Hamilton, to move with another parent in Queens. The travel from Queens to campus was 23 minutes as opposed to the 2 hours some time it would take him to travel to Fort Hamilton. So he made a necessary change to help his family. The DOE said that was good reason. They called it a hardship travel transfer. Then, when the PSAL caught wind of the transfer, they said he had to sit out a year without looking into the fact that he qualified for the unless.
Can I ask a question?
The unless is that if he transfers from one legal guardian to another, that's a basis to change schools and play. An exception to the sitting out for 1 year. So when you say he had to sit out 1 year, that wasn't true. And in fact, the Supreme Court agreed with me.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think the bigger issue here is the law or the treatment and how it was handled? Because to me, that's the bigger issue here. Because, for example, I think that the DOE and sometimes the PSAL take advantage of disenfranchised families. A lot of the families don't have the resources. Now,
that's true.
This is a Legree we're talking. This is PSAL Brooklyn royalty here. If it wasn't the Legrees, would we still be sitting? Would you be here? Would they have the opportunity to be able to present their case if it was not for the Legrees? If they didn't have the resources, would they?
Well, you have to understand something. I grew up with the Legrees, all right? So you have to start with that.
I'm not talking about you two. I'm just talking about...
But what I'm saying is, it depends on the child. Most children would not have had the resources to afford my services.
For the record, this is Chris's nephew also. So I just have to put that out there for the record. I have to say
that was just my point, is that, you know, he's blessed. Like I was blessed. I had both my parents. I grew up in the house that my father owned. I was one of the blessed ones. So I had a backing behind me the same way Sharif had backing. Majority of my kids don't have that support system. So they find themselves in these predicaments and they end up getting their choices taken away from them.
Now, from my gather, also there's an organization out there called the Coalition for Youth Sports here in Brooklyn.
Student athletes. It's formulated at Grand Street. And,
so it's basically to protect,
and we
protect the students?
Yeah, we hope in the future that it could grow into chapters on every school.
What is the basis for it, anyway?
The basis of it's kind of like what Johnny's saying, to make sure things are done in a way that it's expedited, one, and that athletes and families are treated not just like football players. There's an incident, I don't want to get into it. The enrollment, certain student athletes going down to enrollments to transfer for whatever reason, and they were asked, do you play football? That's not appropriate. A parent signs a kid into a school. Right. A coach don't. But that, I mean, that's probably for another show.
And we should also note that had this been kids who dance, there's nothing that arts, nothing that would prevent them from going into a program in the following year.
So from Brooklyn Tech to, say, Martin Luther King High School, and you want to be a theater major, you have no problem.
It's not a problem. And remember, we always have to remember, these sports are an avenue, not only to play, but I mean, avenue to a future. So we shouldn't be cutting off avenues.
So the
That's
PSAL, so the
That's my
PSAL
point.
basically has to catch up to modern times.
Right.
And the fact is they don't care. Our kids don't matter to them. That's the bottom line. And I understand people here have to be political because they have to say the right things. I don't. I really don't care. I'm an advocate for the athlete. I'm an advocate for the families in Brooklyn who don't have someone to speak up for them. Our kids need these opportunities.
What are kids saying to you?
What are kids saying to me?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I have kids that they walk out, like I said, they see gangs, drugs, cops. The only opportunity they have to get out of the streets is through sports. And we talked about this last time we were here. You don't want to tell a kid that you can do, you can get to college or other place other than sports. But the fact of the matter is that's the only way they see that they can get out is through playing sports. The only reason why my parents could afford for me to go to college, my brother to go to college, and my sister to go to private school was because I received the academic and athletic
But your
scholarship.
mother emphasized academics also.
Always, always. But if you don't have, like for example, you don't attract bees with vinegar, you attract them with honey. How do you get a kid to go to class? You can't go to class if you don't. I mean, you can't play sports if you don't go to class.
Correct.
And our kids feel like sports is their only way out.
All right. Eric Adams this weekend?
Yes, Eric Adams this weekend is having a October 4th, 2 o'clock in Lower Manhattan. They're going to meet and march over, and it's for athletes. He's sponsoring youth athletes, so it's important. It's an important consideration. He's out here behind youth sports in general, and I think it's great, and people should contact his office and find out how they can be part of it.
And Mike, I'm holding you accountable because we need more forums like this. We need more than 10 minutes. This is something that we have to be able to do.
We're going to discuss that. We will. I promise you.
I'm serious,
I promise
Mike.
You. I will. I know you are. I know you are. And we're going to be on the case. We will. Wrap up. So where do we move forward now? With Sharif Legree?
Well, I'd like to say the following. Chris Legree has been fully approved.
Sharif Legree?
Sharif Legree has been fully approved. We believe that now he's going to have the opportunity to showcase his talent. His talent will be showcased, and the schools that look at him will have an opportunity. Hopefully, he'll get the scholarship that he's
and hopefully this won't happen again to other future athletes down the road.
I think personally that we need reform in some of the bylaws, but that's another meeting for another day. And I think that that's a big deal. If we could get some reform, and Johnny said, get it where things are expedited. And not,
we want due process, and we want expedient process. Because listen, he would be irreparably harmed this year if he wasn't allowed to play. And had he not hired me, who knows how long it would have taken for him to get on the field.
Now, the other question, real quick.
That was my point.
Can the PSAL come back and appeal this at all? Is there?
I don't think there's any need to, and I don't think they've shown any interest in
down the playoffs. Playoffs start in November. Or will there be an opportunity?
No. They've said it's fully approved. Okay. This is Alan Blanks. Alan Blank. I had a conversation with Alan Blanks. He indicated to me that he's fully approved.
All right, cool, gentlemen. I gotta go. We're gonna have you back again.